radio, the old record player, those were the first instruments, I guess, first things I really learned how to play, and it's true. I mean, you know, didn't we all sort of throw a record on and kind of go, whoa, I like playing records. I like playing the radio. And then from there, I think, you know, growing up just on the other side of the river from Detroit in the early and mid to late 60s, you know, there was a plethora of great music coming out of Detroit, Motown, and with stations like CKOW where you really got a great smattering of the cheesiest to the greatest artistic songs of the day. You know, so I think I fell in love with radio and the beauty of the mystery behind the airwaves far longer before I really gravitated towards instruments. But I'd probably say that my biggest, or the first influence was certainly my brothers, because you know, there were instruments around the house. Everyone, I'm the youngest of 5 kids, you know, everyone received music lessons except myself, and I'm strangely enough the only one that ever pursued music as a career. And I imagine maybe those instruments hanging around the house is really what was the impetus behind perhaps what I'm doing now. Particularly my brother Billy's electric guitar, and you know, getting my first couple of lessons and chords from him, probably that was certainly the very beginning. And I still have that guitar, actually. I still have my oldest brother's first electric guitar that he owned, and I own that presently. And a really cool little tube National amplifier that accompanied that.
Ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on.
I basically did end up pursuing it on my own, because as much as I hate to say that because probably my older brother will watch this sometime, but he lost patience with me rather quickly in terms of teaching me guitar. And I can actually remember almost the day and the words that he spoke to me when he finally had had enough in terms of trying to show me chords and being frustrated with me in terms of not being able to perhaps finger it properly.
This is Ground Control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade, and the papers want to know whose shirt you wear. Now it's time to leave the capsule if you dare.
From then on, I think I sort of inherently knew that I was going to be on my own from here on out. So I really did pursue and learn by ear, and quickly discovered that in my teen years that I did have a pretty decent ear in terms of picking up a guitar and putting on a record and quickly figuring out not only the key that the song was in, but the chord changes as well. So that certainly has helped.
Off the moon, planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do.
I don't know if that's a nature or nurture sort of gift that's been bestowed, but it served me well, and it's largely in part of what I'm doing now, because it's all, you know, I teach myself all the parts and sort of take it from there.
I'm past 100,000 miles, I'm feeling very still.
Guitar was first. I learned the harmonica hitchhiking to California after graduating from high school, I guess it was. You know, standing on the side of the road waiting for a ride. You know, I'd pull out my pocket harmonica and spend hours at the side of the road learning how to play that. I learned how to bend a note doing that, standing by the side of the roads. I've never been a drummer. As a matter of fact, my first drum kit as a one-man band was really a kick drum that someone had given me somewhere out in Calgary, and it sat out in my back deck for years as a beer cooler in the summertime. Just fill this thing up with beer and ice, and it was a really cool way to keep your beer cold in the summertime. So when it came time to build my first one-man band, I took that old beer cooler slash kick drum and modified it and turned it back into a plain instrument and strapped it in my ass, and here we are. And along the way, I've also learned how to play the fiddle a little bit and the banjo, you know, dabbling in. I have a couple of accordions at home that I play one or two songs on. And instruments are just fascinating, aren't they? I do remember my first royalty check, and I think it's still the only royalty check. It was for $12.50, and I never cashed it. I actually have it framed somewhere in a box. It was funny because I think SoCan contacted me later on and said, "Hey, you didn't cash that check, so we're going to send you another one." I thought, okay, that's cool. So I have two SoCan checks. One I didn't cash, and I think one I did, for $12.50 or something. Thank you.
That goes out to Chris Hadfield, our parade marshal.
When I'm traveling, I listen to a lot of jazz in the Bandaloni, from one place to the next. I listen to a lot of NPR when I'm driving, and I listen to a lot of silence and wind through the windows. Quite often I just like the silence of the universe is very appealing. Music is always sort of present in my life, one form or another, but I honestly do require a certain amount of silence, because I think that's where it really happens. Of course, that's the trick, and that is something that I'm continually working on, meditating and finding that inner peace and inner silence and inner reflection. Can I turn it off? Well, I'm getting better at it, but there's so much noise in the world, so much noise in our lives anymore, so much noise, so much form coming our way all the time. So it's a matter of shutting it out. Well, I'm never satisfied with where I am, so I'm always trying to push the act and improve, or at least take it down a different road, or make a U-turn, or I shouldn't say U-turn, make a left or a right turn, or hey, let's see what happens down here. What if I hooked up another drumstick up here, and how could I make this happen? Yeah, my brain's kind of operating on that level in many respects, and when I hear a piece of music, I'm always continually listening to it from a one-man band perspective, and whether or not it's one I could pull off, or how one could pull something like that off. So that's certainly going through my mind often. Yeah, I'm certainly quite capable of turning it off, though. You have to. You can't just have your processors firing all the time. You got to turn on the fan once in a while and put it on sleep mode. I don't really listen to pop radio or pay much attention to what is popular, I guess, in mainstream, because to me, when I hear it, it's vacant. It's vacant of feeling. It seems to be vacant of... It's vacant of feeling. So it leaves me feeling flat.
Well, it was back in Blind River in 1962 when I last saw you live. But we missed that shift on the long decline. Long may you run. Long may you run. Long may you run. Although these changes have come, with your chrome heart shining in the sun. Long may you run.
I'm always striving, or at least trying to do the best job I can and get through songs and get through performances in a, I guess perfection is the goal, but knowing full well it won't ever be achieved, because I guess in my mind it's almost an impossible quest in regards to what I do, and I know that from the inside because of all the little intricacies that you feel and that you are responsible for while performing and trying to do, you know, a number of things at once, and trying to be aware of all of those things at once while you're in the midst of a performance. And really opening yourself up there and making yourself vulnerable to all of those mistakes, and knowing full well that
All right, hey, thank you, folks.
I'm aware.
Then I saw her face. I'm a believer, not a trait. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. Move your finger from the lens. I don't think you took the picture. Too many margaritas. Oh, where was I? Oh, I forgot where I was. Let me start that again. Hold on here. Hey, at least you know it's live.
If anything, I'm more allowing myself to be vulnerable to myself because I'm hyper aware of the mistakes that I think I make while I'm performing.
Oh, I'm trying to do Margaritaville again. Wait, 1 second. Too many things on my mind. Then I saw her face.
And I think I'm continuously judging myself while performing. So being vulnerable and judging myself for lack of perfection.
You want to go faster? You want to go faster? Give it up for this young lady right here. Woo! Do you know what, folks? She just won the 2013 Bandaloni Dance Idol contest. Yeah. And here's the trophy to prove it. Come here. Are you kidding me? Hold up your trophy. Hold it up way over your head. All right, give it up for that young lady. My goodness. Hey, she was excellent.
I met Bandaloni. It was in Saskatoon, of all places. We were pretty fresh in the market. And Bandaloni, he was kind of the grizzly veteran, you know? And there he was, and he kind of took us under his wing early on in our career. And it was quite hilarious, actually, because what he told us was basically, you know, don't be crazy, be honest, and don't screw up. Pretty good advice, I thought. But yeah, no, it was funny because he seemed to be the man that kind of knew everything, you know, the ins and outs, kind of where to go to the bathroom, you know, places like that. He's like, oh, you don't want to go there. That's where you know, come over here. It wasn't creepy or anything. But that's the way he knew how to do stuff, you know, when to get into the gate area, stuff like that. So yeah, Saskatoon, and then we've gone on to do, you know, maybe about 300 shows in the same area, something like that. So it's always a pleasure. We call ourselves A-list carnies because, well, let's be honest, it's the fair circuit and we love it, but we have you know, we get our own dressing room, so it makes us kind of a big deal.
You know, the nice thing about being over 40, folks, is we did most of our stupid stuff before the internet. That's a good thing. Thanks, fellas. All right, here we go. A year from now, who knows? I kind of leave things, for the most part, wide open, and I'm always looking for new opportunities, and you always hit patches in this industry, which at this point, primarily, it's fair. That's kind of the main bread and butter. However, there's certainly a smattering of corporate gigs. I used to do a number of sporting events. Those have kind of tapered off. So a year from now, who knows? That's the beauty about this job, is that you never know where it's going to take you. And I think that was kind of one of the enticing things about pursuing the one-man band, was everything's kind of wide open. There's no rules, there's no rule book, and there's no map. So you kind of make your map as you go along, as well as construct your own equipment. Every one-man band is different. You know, I don't think I've ever seen two of the same when it comes to one-man band. So the creative aspect is certainly important. But yeah, you know, this may sound cliche, but it's not the destination, it's the journey, and that's how I've always sort of approached this. And the impetus for me has always been to push this art form as far as I could go with it. And I don't think I'm there yet, not even close. And I don't think there's certainly no destination.
20 years ago, I would have saw myself more as a singer-songwriter or in a band. I think that's kind of where my head was at that point. Also at that, 20 years ago, I was seriously involved in visual art and making sculpture, creating those large-scale dinosaurs for museums and casting bronze. So, and music on the side, writing songs. I did have a band together at that point, I think. One-man band, no, that certainly wasn't in the cards or even on the radar. Ever since getting out of high school, I can think my philosophy had always been not to take any jobs or work that I didn't love or appreciate. So I've always in one respect or another worked in audio, whether it be selling mid and high-end audio equipment. I've worked, sound stages as a technician and at various festivals around Alberta. Visual art, having a visual art background, that was always a big proponent. So for me, the whole one-man band thing is kind of a culmination of those two passions, visual art, music. I still get to work with my hands and construct all the equipment. I'm working with audio. Even the sales comes into play here. I guess you have to build it, play it, and sell it. That's kind of the three key ingredients to, I think, a successful one-man band. Probably any band for that matter.
So you're wearing all the hats.
Wearing all the hats. I'm my own groupie most nights.
Look at that, a standing ovation already. Thank you so much, folks. Hey, welcome to San Diego County Fair. My name's Bandaloni.
The best compliments tend to come from musicians because they recognize the effort and the seriousness, I guess, with which I take the craft and the effort that I put into building the equipment, and I think more than anything the thought involved and the creativity involved in terms of putting things together. And that's not boasting, but I'll tell you, I get the most satisfaction from, I think, those type of compliments from musicians that I respect. I respect any musician out there that actually takes the time and makes the effort to come up and talk about what it is I'm doing and talk about their own. And I'm just as interested to hear about what they're up to and what they're doing too. So.
And so we just walked up on you. It's like amazing. I can't believe. I know I'm a musician too.
Are you? Oh,
but I can't believe how hard this must be to do. I can't even imagine trying to do.
That, especially coming from musicians.
Oh yeah. I mean, to do all this together.
She was impressed, but wow, just made that.
Yeah, you play piano.
Flute.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I can't imagine playing like all these instruments at
I
once,
wish I could just
but-
play the flute. It'd make my job so much easier.
You wouldn't get as much of a crowd.
No, probably not.
We've been here twice since it's been like going on, and I was like, where's that guy? The guy was always here with all this stuff. And then when I heard you play, I was like, he's here. So I finally caught the show this
Well,
third time.
thank you.
So
Well,
it was
thanks
awesome.
Thanks for making the effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a talent.
Very entertaining.
good.
Thank you.
I'm gonna show my niece. She's gonna love it.
We're here at the fair, 5 days a week. I see a show 3 times a day. Lends entertainment to the show. I mean, I'm sitting here, we get the dancers going, I can actually dance on my break.
It's a very engaging craft, but it also it utilizes a great portion of your brain, if not all of your brain, because you're continuously thinking about how to improve something, how to make something better, how to do this, how to make this mechanism. Because as I said, there's no video, there's no book, there's no roadmap for this whole thing. After a while, it becomes a dance. I find it's the best way to describe it. People say, how do you do all this stuff at once? And the best way I've been able to describe it is you don't think about it. You can't think about it. When you start thinking about it, it starts to fall apart. So it becomes a real feel thing, and the best way to describe it is, in dance form. It's a certain dance, your body, your mind, the rhythm of the music. It's a rhythm that your body adapts to in your mind, and you just kind of get a feel for the equipment. But everything I can feel, everything becomes a part of my body. The thing for me is to keep it all, at least 100% live. I still to this day sort of follow my own kind of mantra of pushing sort of the one-man band idea as far as I can go with it. Sort of take it where no one man has gone before. Take it where no one-man band has gone before.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I think about playing in bands again. I would play them in another band. However, I think I would just go on and play in a fun band.
See me ride up the sunset on your color TV screen. After all that I can get, if you know what I mean. Horn players to the left of me, the percussion to the right. Ain't got no gun, ain't got no knife. Don't you start no fight.
I used to play in a band where we wore kettles on our heads. And we wore silver suits and white shoes. That was fun. And we played in art galleries. It's been a long time since I'd actually played in a band, and I do miss that energy, and I don't certainly miss the making $50 in a hot dog out of the shitty little clubs. But I do miss the camaraderie and the energy in a band, definitely.
Understand? So lock up your data, lock up your wife, lock up your trombones and run for your life. The one-man band is back in town. Don't you mess me around.
I think a band for me, I think for any musician, whether it be a Thursday or Wednesday night kind of thing where you get together with the gang and have a couple of beers and play some tunes, I think that's good therapy for anybody.
Hold on a second. One of you guys is saying oink. Who was it? Oh, of course it was. Of course it was. You know what? She must have been thinking that other song. You know, the one that goes like this. P-I-G, oink, 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 P-I-G, oink, oink, oink. You don't know what I'm talking about. All right, put your hands together for my old band. Come on now. All right.
I played around and played around this old town too long. Summer's almost gone, yeah, winter's coming on. I played around and played around this old town too long, and I feel like I've gotta drive on. This old town too long. Summer's almost gone, yeah, winter's coming on. Played around
sheriff and the police coming after me, riding after me, yeah, coming after me. My sheriff and the police coming after me, and I feel like I've got to travel on. I played around this old town too long. Summer's almost gone, yeah, winter's coming home. Played around this old town too long, and I feel like I've got to travel on. Travel on! Wanna see my honey, wanna see her bad, wanna see her bad, yeah, wanna see her bad. Wanna see my honey, wanna see her bad, she's the best gal this old boy's ever had. I stayed around this old town too long. Summer's almost gone, yeah, winter's coming on. I stayed around this old town too long, and I feel like I've got to travel on. Yes, I feel like I've got to travel on. Yes, I feel like I've got to travel on. Woo! All right, folks, I'm going to be traveling on, but I'll be back at 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. In the meantime, and always take care of the ones that you love. Thank you. Yep.
I'll go out to Alberta. Weather's good there in the fall. Got some friends that I could go to working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I asked you one more time. But we've been through that 100 times or more. 4 strong winds that blow lonely, 7 seas that run high. All those things that don't change from what may.
Okay, so here's my idea. And I came up with this when I was coming across the I-79 over here to the 15 about 3 years ago. I wanted some interesting music for that drive over, which is my favorite drive. So I put on Mogwai. I've got this compilation of Mogwai albums, which I played, and it miraculously fit the landscape to such a T. You know, every 3-4 minutes the tune would change and the landscape would miraculously change to something really interesting. And it flowed so well the last 3 years. I've taken the same drive and played the same soundtrack and started at the same place in Green River, right over to the 15 here, which is very cool. Anyways, it got me thinking that a cool idea would be have a part of the perhaps Sirius satellite radio network have, you know, landscape radio where you can have soundtracks that actually fit in with whatever particular drive you're doing. So if you're on the I-15 from Vegas up to Salt Lake City, for instance, you can punch in on Sirius satellite radio a particular soundtrack that will actually fit that landscape and maybe even give you pointers or landmarks along the way as you travel. But the idea is to sort of have the landscape fit with the soundtrack that you're listening to. I thought that was a cool idea. I don't know if it's been done. Who knows? Would anyone care? I don't know. Maybe you insert sort of a little sort of play-by-play along the way somehow. I don't know. Maybe there's a video that goes with it. I don't know. A video while you're driving. But why would you want a video when you got all that out front and outside? But you got to do that drive sometime on the 79 over to Green River, or actually back to Green River. It's better coming this way, then you can look out over to the left, where all the miracles happen. From that old sea basin that has risen up from millions of years ago. It's incredible, really it is.
This way, I'll look for you if I'm never back this way. On a long, lonesome highway east of Omaha, you can listen to the engines moaning out one long song. You think about the woman or the girl you knew the night before. But your thoughts so soon go wandering the way they always do when you're riding 16 hours and there's nothing much to do. You don't feel much like riding, you just wish the trip was through. Well, here I am on the road again. Here I am up on stage. Here I go, playing star again. Here I go.
Hey, so here we are at the Calgary Stampede. We're on the grounds. We got some of the bugs worked out. Looks like the water has receded come hell or high water. High water's gone. The hell begins.
Yippee-ki-yo, rocking to and fro, back in the saddle again. Yippee-ki-yay, I go my own way, back in the saddle again. Giddy up! Back in the saddle for another great day of the Stampede. shots in. I don't know when, but I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and I keep dragging on. And that train keeps on rolling all the way down through Calgary town. Oh yeah.
You know, it's funny, when I first started doing this, I thought I would be, you're kind of putting yourself out there. You're pretty vulnerable, and as soon as you strap a drum to your ass, number one, you look pretty ridiculous. So my number one rule to myself is you got to lose your pride to a certain degree, and in that if you're going to put yourself out there in such a ridiculous state, then you better be prepared for ridicule or whatever may come your way. Or at least that's what I thought. However, the opposite has rung true, especially with teenagers. You know, they're certainly the toughest crowd, I think, to sort of please, because, as we all know, teenagers are immortal and they know everything. So I always thought the teenager crowd was going to be a tough one, but they're actually big fans, and everyone tends to be. You tend to win them over. And I'll tell you how it's, I think they're won over. They're won over by the fact that I think what I do, it's presented in such a fashion where you can't help but at least let a little bit of joy enter your life and put a smile on your face. So as ridiculous as it is an uplifting art form, I think. And that's what tortures me. And I like to think that I've pushed this novelty act into a little bit more of an art form as opposed to just strictly a novelty act. I get treated with great respect from fans alike, whether it's as Paul David or Bandaloni, and I think it's how one conducts themselves, and I tend to treat people exactly how I would like to be treated, so that comes back in time.
Justin Bieber do that. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I think if you were to talk to my mom, I was singing and humming at 1 or 2 years old, humming blah 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 Black Sheep. So I don't know, somewhere down the line I just kind of creeped into the crib.
Well, aren't you smiling at me? That's the way it should be, like a leaf into a tree so fine. All the good times we had, we sang love songs so glad, always smiling, never sad, so fine. I could walk down the country lane, I'd be singing your song and recalling your name.
That was part of my state of being. It was there, and so I honestly can't remember in the very first time of playing in public. No, I can't. It just happened.
Mr. Dwayne.
I've had the unique opportunity to see Bandaloni rehearse at his actual house. And he's, I play guitar as well, but he doesn't just play guitar, he's more of a scientist, you know, because he's thinking about every instrument at the same time. So I come in with my guitar and we're doing a couple jams and stuff like that, but he knows the song from the start to the finish without a beat missing. So it's pretty interesting actually to jam with him. It's actually it is kind of like jamming with the whole band, because if you you go off the road, Bandaloni's like, that's not how it goes, and then he can play the whole song. It's impressive actually to know that many songs and to know when to play them. That's the thing too. He can read an audience better than I've ever seen any other performer ever. It depends. He'll see an old, you know, say a cowboy in the corner, and he'll know the exact same song, and without missing a beat, he'll see the kid dancing, and then whip out Toy Story or something like that. He'll like play a crowd like it's like, you know, like the master working. So it's pretty cool actually to see him not only grab a crowd, keep them, but also take them on a journey. He doesn't just play one style of music, which is pretty cool, you know. I envy the man. Damn it.
Unbelievable! Hey, if you're here at the Stampede, we got the world famous Bandaloni performing for over 20,000 people today at the Suncor Family Day. Unbelievable! Here he is, Bandaloni.
You got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what Due to the Clown said, yeah. You've got a friend in me. That's right. You've got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. If you've got troubles, I've got them too. Isn't anything this one-man band wouldn't do for you? We'll stick together and we'll see it through. 'Cause you've got a friend in me. That's right. You got a friend in me. Some folks might be a little bit smarter than I am, bigger and stronger too, or maybe no one will ever love you the way I do. Yes, it's true. And as the years go by, a friendship it'll never die. No, sir. You're gonna see it's our destiny. Woo, doggy. You got a friend in me. There you go, sweetheart. Yep. You got a friend in me. That's right. You got a friend in me. To the Calgary Stampede and beyond. Yeah.
After art school, after graduating from the University of Windsor with a BFA in sculpture, I headed west. I had fallen in love with the West many years prior, having hitchhiked out there when I was 15 with my, well actually I took the train to Calgary, hooked up with one of my older brothers, and we proceeded to hitchhike to the West Coast, which was a real eye-opener for a 15-year-old boy. So I fell in love with the West at that time. So once I went through my university years at the age of 23, 24, when I got out of university, I bought a van, loaded it up, and with girlfriend in tow, we headed out to Calgary, where I set up shop for 12 years. And in that, one of the first jobs I had there was getting back into my roots of selling high-end and mid-fi audio. Which I did for, oh gosh, I don't know how many years I did that in Calgary. However, I think it ran its course and I wanted to pursue something a little different. So a buddy of mine had started a company called Colton Cases, which was a product that he had brought over from England via Keith Colton, who was building one-off guitar cases for traveling musicians and their stringed instruments over in England. And So Al Williams, my buddy, started up the North American arm of that company, and I was one of his very first employees. So we were constructing cases for a great deal of some of the planet's best musicians and luthiers, people who were building incredible stringed instruments. So, you know, not to name drop, however, we made cases for everyone from Sting to Joni Mitchell to Bruce Colburn, James Taylor, Paul Simon, strange little one-offs like guys like Ken Kesey, Gary Larson, the cartoonist from The Far Side. He's a real jazz guitar aficionado. I made and sold a guitar case to Steve Miller. I sold it to him personally down in at the NAMM show in Anaheim, California, when we were down there plugging our wares at one point. John Prine, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. All of the members of Union Station, Alison Krauss's fiddle case. I mean, I could go on, because arguably Colton was the best one-off stringed instrument case that one could acquire to travel with and fly with. So I was proud to be a part of that whole operation.
Hey, it's me, what a big surprise, calling you up from a restaurant round the bend.
Certain particular famous musicians whose cases I built, I would put a little something special into those cases. Now I got to backtrack back to the university years, because being in art school, one tends to do odd things and take chances. So I got in a rather strange habit of collecting my hair out of my hairbrush, and I started that in university, and that continued on for several years. And what I would do is, when your hair gets, or your hairbrush gets a little clogged up with hair, as opposed to peeling it out and throwing it in the trash, I would stick it in a jar, and over time that jar got quite full. But you know what? I've never lost any of my hair, because I always knew exactly where it was. It was all in this jar. So fast forward many years later, when I was building guitar cases, whenever anyone famous came across my bench, and I was in charge of actually finishing off the cases with the nice plush velour interior and the foam, and hand fitting the cases. So I was putting the finishing touches on the cases. I would take a wad of my hair from this jar, and I would glue it into the bottom underneath the foam pad, usually underneath where the sound hole of the guitar would be. I would glue some of my own hair into the case, and so the artist would never know that it was there. However, the idea in my mind was I would have this sort of conceptual piece of art floating around out in the world that was only I really knew about, but I guess the cat's out of the bag now. But it was funny. I remember I had put some hair in John Prine's case, and my wife and I were lying in bed one night in Calgary watching Austin City Limits, and John Prine was on the TV, and I turned to her and I said, "Isn't it funny, honey, we're watching this show and knowing full well my hair is in the green room." So that kind of brought it kind of all full circle, my little conceptual art piece. So there you go, hair in the case.
Not just a one-man band. There's really no other guy like him anywhere.
In the twilight glow I see her, blue eyes crying in the rain. And as we kissed goodbye and parted, I knew we'd never meet again. Love is like a dying ember, only memories remain. Through the ages I remember eyes crying in the rain.
Regardless of what happens with the one-man band, I think I recognize that there's an expiry date built into Bandaloni. I just don't know when that is. I think I will know when it's time. Just like anything, when you talk to any entertainer, there's a certain amount of burnout that can be experienced, especially after 14 years and as much travel and time and effort and energy it requires to do this. And I'm not complaining. It's certainly a labor of love, but it does weigh on you at times.
Now my hair has turned to silver. All my life I've loved in vain.
Regardless, I think I'll always be doing something creative and something challenging, and whether that's cooking, which I love to do, and I look at cooking and visual art and painting and sculpture and music. I kind of lump them all in the same basket in that, you're basically, everything is a recipe and ingredients that you're putting together in one fashion or another and seeing what you kind of come up with. So. My true self, I think, shines through in many respects when I'm performing. Certainly there's a heap and helping of shtick tossed in there too, for good measure. But as my dad used to say, Paul, sell corn, sell corn. And he didn't mean the stuff that grows, so I guess I ended up selling corn in the end. I'm a corn salesman.